Hello friends, welcome to my channel, a channel for learning simple coding. If you find this video to be helpful, please like, share and subscribe my channel. In last video number 28, we have learned how to pass data from route to route in Next.js. Now in this video number 29, we are going to learn pre-rendering concepts changes in Next.js 13. What is pre-rendering? Types of pre-rendering, and what are the updates and changes that Next.js 13 had made in pre-rendering concept that we are going to understand. It's a very important concept if you want to be a full stack developer. For that, we open another PPT to understand this concept, pre-rendering in Next.js. Now, what is pre-rendering in Next.js? Remember that pre-rendering refers to the process of generating HTML page at build time or on the server. Remember that the process of generating HTML pages at build time or on the server. That is the process of pre-rendering. That is the concept of pre-rendering. Remember that. So we make a request, then server listen the request and it convert your request into HTML format. Remember that if this HTML page build at server or build at build time, we create the page at build time, then it is called pre-rendering. So whenever we make any website in Next.js and after completing all the coding, then we go for build process. So while the build process, if you are using pre-rendering types, then your HTML page generate on that time. But sometime we generate HTML page on client request also. Sometime we create HTML pages before the request also. So if we create the pages before the request, then those pages we create at build time. But if we create on a request, then it create on a server. So these two process is called pre-rendering. Remember that. But if the page is generating or executing on client machine by using JavaScript, then it is not the pre-rendering. That is a normal rendering process. Now we understand what is pre-rendering. Now we go types of pre-rendering in Next.js 12 and before it. Remember that we called static site generation. First one, that is called build time HTML generation process. Server side rendering, that is generating HTML page on server on each and every request of a client or a user. Incremental static generation is a mix of these two, means some page will generate on build time and some page will generate on server on the request, and for that we have some time duration. So after certain time this regeneration process starts and some static or some page are dynamically generate with the help of incremental static generation. Now types of re-rendering in Next.js 13. Remember, static site generation is converted to static rendering. Remember that. Now static site generation we called static rendering in Next.js 13. Remember that concepts are same, implementation process is different. Concept is same, implementation process in Next.js is different, but the output is same. So static site generation process in Next.js 12 and before is now become static rendering, and server side rendering is now become dynamic rendering. Remember that server side rendering we called dynamic rendering, static site generation we called static rendering in Next.js 13, and incremental static regeneration is same. Incremental static regeneration is same, but implementation is different. Remember that. Concept is same, but implementation is different. And how we can implement all these three concepts or all three processes in Next.js 13, I will explain in my later videos also. Now in Next.js 12 we use get static props and get static path functions. With the help of these two functions we make static site regeneration in Next.js 12 and before. But now this process has been changed. Now in place of this we are using this concept fetch URL cache force cache. With the help of this we make static site generation. Now it is become static rendering. So static rendering we do with the help of fetch function and by putting some extra parameter to the fetch function. How we do and how we can use this to generate static rendering, we are going to see in my next future videos also. So for server side rendering in Next.js 12 and before, we use get server side props function, remember, but this function is no longer used now in Next.js 13. So in place of that, we use fetch function with extra parameters called no store. How to use it, that is also I'm going to explain in my next video in a same playlist. You can follow those. And this server side rendering now become dynamic rendering. Remember that it was here server side rendering, now it become dynamic rendering. So static side generation in 12, in Next.js 12 we use get static props, get a static path. Now we use only fetch function with some parameter force cache. Server side rendering in Next.js 12 we use get server side props function, but this function is no longer useful in Next.js 13. So we use this no store with fetch for dynamic rendering, means for server side rendering. Now incremental static regeneration in Next.js 13 we use fetch function again with some other validations, other parameters. Next revalidate x. Revalidate we also use with server side rendering with get server side props or get static props in Next.js 12 also, but in Next.js 13 we are not using these functions. We are using only fetch function and revalidate concept. With the next parameter or configuration properties we can do incremental static regeneration in Next.js 13. Thank you, that's all in this video. But if you want to read more about the practical way of these concept and how these pre-rendering process is now implement in Next.js 13, so watch my same playlist. Just in a few days I'm going to make video on each and every concepts with a practical demonstration. So be with me in future also. I'm going to give you a very valuable information on Next.js in same playlist. If you like this video, please do subscribe. Thank you for watching this video.